All right, class, here we are at a reading test for today. We'll take it in 3 different sections. It's the land of their own. The Carpenter family lived in a small house near a large farm in Tennessee. The Carpenters worked for the family who owned the farm. Mr. Carpenter worked in the fields and Mrs. Carpenter worked in the house, cooking and cleaning for the family. Althea watched over her 2 younger brothers while their parents worked. She knew her parents were working hard to save money to move to Kansas. The people of Kansas fought to keep slavery out of its borders. Althea's parents wanted to live in a place that had never known slavery. They wanted better lives for their children. Mr. and Mrs. Carpenter were born into slavery. All enslaved workers were freed during the Civil War. After the war, the Carpenters married and moved into their own little house. They had been enslaved workers. Now they dreamed of having their own farm. They knew that it would take lots of hard work to make this dream come true. The family saved every penny they could. Late at night, Althea sat as quiet as a mouse. Remember, we're working on similes and metaphors. As a mouse, while her parents talked about moving. She heard of open land west of the Mississippi River. The government was giving the land to anyone who was 21 years and who had never fought against the United States government. In order to keep this land, the person had to live on the land for 5 years and improve it. This meant that houses and barns had to be built, and the land had to be farmed. After 5 years, the person could apply for the land deed. This paper gave the land to the person who improved it. That means they get to keep the land for free. One night, Mr. and Mrs. Carpenter brought their children together. The parents had huge smiles on their faces. They told the children that they had finally saved enough money to move to Kansas. The family hugged, cheered, and cried as they began planning their trip west. A few weeks later, Althea said goodbye to her friends. She had to refrain from crying. She knew she might never see her friends again. She hugged each one and told them that she would write letters. Althea's friend Dorothy gave her a doll made from scrap fabric. Dorothy was worried Althea would forget their friendship. Althea held the doll tightly, and she and her family set out in the jerky wagon. The trip to Kansas was long and difficult. The family did their best to forge on and travel as far as they could each day. They wanted to reach Kansas before winter. Sometimes they had to stop for a few days because of bad weather. After months of traveling, the family finally reached their new home, Kansas. A big job lay ahead of them. Many trees had to be cut down so a house could be built before winter. Althea and her brother spent many days helping their father hack down trees and cut them into boards. Finally, a small house was built. At last, the Carpenter family had land of their own. All right, use your answer key. Put your answers on. Number 1 says, what is the theme of the passage? Hard work is needed to reach goals. Reaching goals takes a lot of money. All people share a dream of owning land. Older children always take care of younger children. Number 2, read the sentence from the passage. Late at night, Althea sat quiet as a mouse while her parents talked about moving. What does the simile, quiet as a mouse, mean? Loudly, nervously, sadly, or silently? And number 3, what word from the passage means to hold back and is also the name for a song part that is repeated? Fabric, refrain, scraps, tightly. Question number 4. Why did the Carpenters want a farm of their own? They wanted to try growing new types of crops. They They thought they could make a lot of money as farmers. They were bored with working the same land over and over. They spent many years working on farms that belonged to others. Number 5. Which word from the passage is a homograph for the word defined below? A sudden stop and start. Strips of dried meat. With sudden stops and starts. Strips of dried meat. Cooking, hack, jerky, and travel. Now, a homograph means it sounds the same, but it has different meanings here. Remember, they were talking about their wagon ride having a jerky motion. And then a sudden stops and starts. That's one definition of jerky. And the other one, strips of dried meat, is another form of jerky. Number 6. Read the sentence from the passage. The family did their best to forge on and travel as far as they could each day. What is the definition fits forge as it's used in the sense above? To move on. The family did their best to move on and travel as far as they could. Make false money. Form metal with heat. Or visit a blacksmith shop. Number 7. Why do the carpenters want to live in Kansas? They do not want to be enslaved workers again. They want to live where there was never slavery. They heard the land was better in Kansas than in Tennessee. They did not want to meet any of the enslaved workers that they once knew. Number 8. What evidence from the text tells you why Althena was to refrain from crying? The trip to Kansas was long and difficult. Mr. and Mrs. Carpenter were born into slavery. She knew she may never see her friends again. At last, the Carpenter family had land of their own. Which of those was she trying hardest to not cry? Dorothy gave Athena a doll because she knows Athena likes dolls, wants Athena to remember her, has an extra doll that she does not use, is giving Athena an early birthday present. Number 10. Read the sentence from the passage. Althena and her brothers spend many days helping their dad hack down trees and cut them into boards. Which definition fits hack as it's used in the sentence? So what does it mean, hack down trees? Manage, cough dryly, chop roughly, or carry for money. All right, guys, take a little break and come back for the second one.